Pencil, color replacement, mixer brush. Hi guys, we continue to study the tools of the brush group, and today we will talk about such tools as a pencil, color replacement and a mix brush. Let's start with a pencil. This tool is perfect for creating clear and sharp lines, and it seems to me that this is a universal tool for creating a variety of sketches. Of course, the maximum capabilities of this tool can be used when working on a graphics tablet. This tool is located in the same place as the other tools of the brush group. It is the second one, and it is suitable for creating, as I said, such clear lines, the thickness of which depends on the level of pressure on the tablet stylus. If of course you work on a tablet, you can adjust its size, but its hardness will still be quite rigid, even if you reduce it. You see, the contour itself just changes a little bit, but in fact it is impossible to achieve soft hardness with this tool. Let's consider a parameter that relates to the blending mode. Here all the same parameters that we already know. Well, let's look at an example. If we turn on the normal mode, then we get a stroke like this. And if we turn on, for example, dissolve mode, then the stroke becomes like this. If we have some objects at the bottom, then the multiply mode creates something like this. Take a look. The multiply mode makes an overlap. We already know this. That is, those areas that overlap each other become darker. As for opacity, I think it's pretty obvious how it works. I have enabled buttons that are responsible for the tablet's response to pressure. Next, we have a smoothing option, which works exactly the same as with a brush. Therefore, we will not dwell on this, but consider a mode called auto erase. Let's see how it works. I draw a line with a pencil, and I draw this line again with the auto erase option enabled. And you see, it is partly removed. It seems as if it is being erased. But in fact, this is not quite true. It's just painted over with the background color. Let's put a different background color. Let me draw the line again. And with auto erase button turned on, I'll draw it from above again. And as you can see, the color is changing. It is the background color. When I move to an empty space, I have a black line again. I paint over it, and I have the background color again. Perhaps this can create some additional opportunities for you. If you want to create sketches that I showed at the beginning of the lesson, you need to take a photo, create a clean layer on top of it, and draw on it with a pencil. If you have a graphics tablet, then you'll get a complete imitation of a sketch that was created by hand. And lovers of drawing, of course, can try to do it. This will be an additional homework assignment only for those who like to draw and who have a graphics tablet. Of course, in this style you can create not only landscapes, but also portraits. Or you can also draw on top of your own scanned pencil sketches. And now let's move on to the color replacement tool. It is located below the pencil tool, and its settings are quite similar to the settings of the previous tools. Therefore, we will consider only those that are radically different. As you have already understood, with this tool you can change the color. And we'll change the color of this girl's dress. Of course, this option works best if we have a color that is very different from what is nearby. Although sometimes it is possible to work well with shades that are quite close. In order for the software to understand which color we want to replace, there are 3 eyedroppers in the settings of this tool. If we choose the first one, then we'll take a color sample continuously. As our mouse cursor or stylus moves through the image, the color from the current part of the image will be taken all the time. The second eyedropper allows you to take a sample once and determine only this color as the color that needs to be replaced. Well, the third eyedropper is the most rarely used. It involves taking a sample from a background sample. There are also restrictions that allow you to paint over only contiguous pixels, for example, or all pixels, or the section of edges. The tolerance works exactly the same as in the case of a magic wand. That is, it determines the spectrum of shades that are as close as possible to those that we have chosen. It works the same for all tools. And of course, we can activate tablet. And let's try to do something after all. So we have taken the tool, and I will work in the color mode, because this particular drawing mode allows you to replace colors with others and maintain saturation, brightness and contrast. Let's zoom in. Now you see such a cross, which is in the middle of my cursor. If I start drawing now, the software will take this place as source of colors. I prefer to use a setting where we take a sample continuously, because in this case we can get the best result. And look, I'm just swiping along the edge of the dress, and the color of the dress changes to the color of the foreground that I have selected. If I see that I still have some unpainted areas, I carefully swipe all of them, trying so that the cross touches exactly these areas. Then you'll get a neat result. So if we want to reduce this effect, we need to reduce the tolerance. First of all, I cancel what I have drawn, and look what we get. Everything looks much more accurate. Here you can swipe carefully along the very edge, so that the cross doesn't come on the skin, or we can reduce the tolerance. Let's continue. Let's fix these areas that are not painted. Well, we need to catch every pixel. Then these areas will be painted. In general, it is better not to release the mouse button during operation. Because look, I'm starting to paint over now, and I have a joint where I released the mouse button. It's pretty visible, and in order to remove it, you need to try very hard to choose one pixel literally, like this, and paint over it. Well, it is very inconvenient. Therefore, it is better not to do so. It is better to do everything literally right away and paint. And that's what I got as a result. Of course, this is not the most perfect tool for color replacement. There are much more advanced ways in Photoshop to replace the color, but still, you need to know about this tool too. Although, the disadvantage of this tool is that we work directly on the main layer with the image. Therefore, it will be very difficult to edit this layer. But if you need to replace the color of some small detail and do it quickly, then in this case, of course, this tool may be quite appropriate. And now let's talk about the last tool from this group, which is called a mixer brush. Here at the very bottom is this tool, and I choose a brush like this. You can of course take another one, but I used this one. With this brush, you can create various imitations of images painted on canvas. In addition, this brush is very widely used in retouching, and especially with such a common method as frequency separation. Well, let's take it in order. Let's see how you can create a painting imitation of this photo with a puppy. So, we have taken a brush, and like any brush, it has the same settings that we can see in the palette of brushes. Well, here is the traditional palette. The following parameter allows us to load brush with some color or sample, clean brush, or load solid colors only, which implies that we will work with the colors that our image already has. We'll enable clean brush after each stroke option, since each new stroke will imply mixing of some new colors. Next, we have the opportunity to choose the type of our brush. You can experiment with each of these types, but I will work with wet, heavy mix. And if you see, as soon as I change this parameter, my setting in all other windows immediately change too. In the future, as you gain experience, you'll be able to choose a custom setting, and you'll be able to set all the settings at your discretion. But we'll have a wet, heavy mix now. We'll also have the ability to turn on an airbrush effect here. We can set a different level of smoothing, but we will leave it as it is and choose either all the layers option, which I will choose now, or we can choose only the current layer. And of course, if necessary, you can use the tablet. Of course, working on a tablet is much more convenient, but in principle you can do this work with a mouse. I create a new clean layer above the layer with the main image, and we'll work on it. All the layers option should be turned on. And look, what is going on here? I'm now swiping through the image. At the same time, the pixels that I have on the layer below seem to be united. And it turns out the effect of such a stroke. Now if we disable the layer that we have below, we will see what we have done. Now I am doing it with the mouse. Although, of course, the perfect work that I showed you was created on a tablet. It is much faster and of course more convenient. Moreover, the tablet reacts to the level of clicking on it, and we can go through the entire image, changing the size of the brush, changing its characteristics, choosing other brushes. For example, a dry brush gives a different effect. We turn it off now. Here is a stroke left by a dry brush, and this is a stroke left by a wet brush. If you have done something wrong, you can take an eraser and clean all mistakes and work out its area with the brush again. Well, now you see we have new ones. Open the image into Windows at once, so that it will be more convenient for you to work, and you can work in one window and look at the source in the second. Sometimes it is useful, and let's see how this image is arranged. I have of course a layer with a photo. I used a brush to create an image of a dog, and then I added another layer between the main layer and the layer with the image. This is a layer with a background. That is, in this way I got a background. After I added all this, I also worked out the edges of the image to somehow fit the dog into the background. This transition was created exactly by mixing the image of the dog and the background. And if you don't do this and just edit a background, then you get such a hard border. It's not very pretty. And the top layer was made with a white brush tool. And I also added accents in some areas. That's the algorithm of this work. Of course, I understand that not everyone has a tablet and that not all people can draw. So let's proceed as follows. I'll of course edit an image of this puppy as in traditional material, and if you are interested in this method, you can try to draw this dog, and I hope that you will make it even better. The actions here are actually quite similar, it just takes some time. But if you don't have a tablet and you are studying Photoshop for some other purpose, then you can use a mixer brush as a retouching tool. In this case, we will take a soft round brush and we will just use it on the girl's face on a new layer. You see, we get such an effect of plastic. All defects are immediately fixed. But we can, of course, still slightly reduce the opacity so that our effects are not too noticeable. And just like that, we are swiping all over the face, gradually making all its flaws less noticeable. Of course, you should not strive to create an absolutely plastic face, but the face can be smoother. Also, here we can use a healing brush tool, after removing the obvious defects that we have on the skin. And after that, of course, it is possible to use the mixer brush tool and align the skin completely. You can do this on several layers, because in some areas you need to make the skin smoother, and on some you will want to leave more texture. Well, in general, it all depends on you. Well, let's compare what we had and what we got. What we got as a result. And let's get to the homework. Homework today will not be quite ordinary. Depending on wherever you like to draw and wherever you have a graphics tablet, you can choose the tasks that you prefer to make. So let's start with a pencil tool. Let's say you like to draw and you have a graphics tablet. Then you take any image that you liked. Open it, create a new layer, and using the pencil tool, you make a sketch of what you want to draw. Just like that, you just make a light sketch of the image that you liked. It can be a city landscape, it can be an image of some animal, or it can be your own sketch. It all depends on your choice. In fact, it's not as difficult as it might seem, and as a result, you can get quite an interesting piece of work. After you draw your sketch, you will need to add another layer between the main layer and the layer with your image. This will be a layer of a white color. For example, I am doing this right now, adding a new layer. And by pressing the Ctrl plus backspace, I fill it with white. And now I already have such a sketch of leaves. It will be much more interesting if in the process of work you'll also change the thickness of your pencil. Well, if you don't want to draw or don't have a tablet, then you can just practice with the functions of the tool a little. Just look at the settings of the pencil. Try to draw a few lines. Use auto erase. Well, that is, somehow get to know this tool. The second task is related to the color replacement tool. It is for everyone. I think it is quite obvious what to do here. The next task is number 3. Also for those who like to draw. You can try to take either this puppy or take any of your own image that you like best and try to create such an imitation of painting. Well, those who don't really want to draw, they can practice using the mixer brush tool in retouching. Well, those who like to draw can try it too. So, these are the unusual tasks for today. I hope you will be interested. I will be very glad to see your unusual creative pieces of work. It was Peter Romanov and AIM School. See you next time.